Reading with Joan, the place for all the fun. Creative kids, come join us, come. Reading with Joan, the place for all the fun.
La 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 la, la 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 la. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Hi, my name is Shed. Which one should I talk about today? Tweety. He is the one I want to talk about. When I was a baby, he used to be a nightlight. Then I became very close with him, and now I eat with him, I play with him, and I watch things with him, and I sleep with him. Why? Because when I was small, he was my favorite toy, and he still is.
We're looking at another scientist. Her name is Mary Seacole. I was amazed and dumbfounded to hear how the former Minister for Education, Michael Gove MP, wanted to take Mary Seacole out of the British school curriculum. I understand that the pretext was that there is no relevance to British history. I believe that at the time of writing this, he has been unsuccessful with that initiative due to the concerned groups protesting his decision. One of the greatest contributions Jamaica has given to the world is the Yellow Doctress, otherwise known as Mary Seacole. Mary Seacole was born in 1805 in Kingston, Jamaica. Her father was a Scottish army officer, and her mother was a Jamaican of African descent who kept a boarding house principally for army officers. Growing up in the military, Seacole became fascinated with several aspects of army life, including travel and exploration. When Seacole was 12, she was sent to England. When she returned to Jamaica, she became even more excited about traveling and had developed an interest in nursing. In 1852, a cholera outbreak swept across the island of Jamaica. Seacole was of great service as she treated many of the sick with her own herbal remedies learned from her mother. Around the same time, she traveled to Panama, where cholera was also raging, and became invaluable there too. In 1853, she returned to Jamaica, where yellow fever was raging. Again, she was of great service nursing the sick back to health by administering her remedies. Maybe that's why she's called the Yellow Doctress, because of yellow fever. In 1854, England, France, and the Ottoman Empire, Turkey being at the center, fought against Russia. This was known as the Crimean War. Seacole traveled to England offering her nursing services. However, she was refused because of her race and gender. Nevertheless, she continued to offer her services to the War Office and Florence Nightingale's own organizations, but each time she was met with an adamant no. Even Florence Nightingale refused her. Wow, I couldn't imagine that. Seacole, still determined, made her own way to the Crimea. Once there, she volunteered her services to many military hospitals and nursed the wounded and dying soldiers on the battlefield. The officers and men loved her and referred to her as Mother Seacole. Soon enough, she was managing her own institution, which she called the British Hotel. The British Hotel served as a combination store, dispensary, and hospital for British soldiers. Mary Seacole died in 1881 in England. She is buried in St. Mary's Catholic Cemetery in Kensal Rise, West London. Sir William Howard Russell wrote of her, "I trust that England will not forget the one who nursed her sick, and who sought out her wounded to aid and succor them, and who performed that last office for some of her illustrious dead." Here is a picture of Mary Seacole. It may not be accurate because it's just a drawing, but that's an artist's imagination of what she looks like. I hope you enjoyed the story about Mary Seacole, Mother Seacole, the Yellow Doctress, today. Thank you for listening. Today we're reading Africa is My Home. The last time we read this, the kids had all been freed and they learned how to dress up in different clothes, and they also learned how to read and write, and they learned what snow was. Wow. Let's start the story. Do you remember Africa? I sometimes ask Cagney and Tema. 12 years old now, I had been in America for almost 2 years. I do, I said. Being among people who look like us, eating rice and cassava, feeling the warm breezes. I remember it as if it was just last week. Imagine, no more white people asking silly questions, no more oatmeal, no more snow and ice. I don't care how long it takes to get us back. I'll never forget my native land. It did take a while to get us back, since the American government was not about to provide us with a ship to get us home. One would have to be hired, and that cost money. In response to the announcement that we former Amistad captives would return to Africa to start a mission in Mandaland, donations began trickling in. The mission idea seemed wonderful to me. Led by American missionaries, I'd be able to share what I had learned about God with my Menda brothers and sisters. So they're going to America, they're going to share they're going to Africa, to Mandaland, not America, and they're going to teach what they learned there to their brothers and sisters and to their friends. While we were waiting for the committee to raise the necessary funds for the mission and our journey home, we needed a place to stay. Fortunately, a sympathetic group of people in Farmington, Connecticut, volunteered. Calais and the men moved there immediately, but a problem arose with Cagney, Tema, and me. We'd been living with the New Haven jailer's family, the Pendletons, since shortly after our arrival, and they vehemently did not want us to leave. I know now that it is because they used us as household servants, but at the time, I thought it was because they genuinely cared for us. They were the only American family I lived with and knew well, and so, when they told us that they were the only ones who could protect us from being sold into slavery again, I believed them. The Pendletons went to court to keep us with them, but the judge ruled that we should go to Farmington. Furious, the Pendletons increased their dire predictions. Do you really think they are going to help you get back to Africa? We doubt it very much. They don't care about you at all. We do. By the day of our departure, I was in a complete state, which is only made worse when I walked outside. There, I encountered a crowd of angry people, many I recognized as friends of the Pendletons, screaming at those who had come to take us to Farmington. Without another thought, I ran. Looking back on it, I see that it was a very silly thing to do. Where was I going to go, after all? They caught up with me before I was down the lane and dragged me, kicking and screaming, into the carriage. And so, my arrival in Farmington was far from auspicious. Fortunately, the Reverend Porter did not comment on my tear-stained face. He and his family quickly made me feel at ease in their home. Tema and Cagney stayed with other families who were equally kind and generous. Far from being sold into slavery, in Farmington, I discovered what it was like to be free in America. Kagna, Tema, and I saw each other every day. Much of our time together was in school. I did so well that one of our new teachers, Mr. Raymond, said I might make a fine teacher at the mission. I also enjoyed attending Reverend Porter's Sabbath services, where on one special day I received a new name. While my parents had named me Maguru, which means cherished in our language, when I first came to America, I was misunderstood and called Marguru, which they wrongly claimed meant black snake. No man child would have been named for a snake. We hated them. So what a relief it was to be rid of that dreadful name, which only reminded me of those early and happy days in America, days I wanted to forget. Now that I was free, I wanted a free name as well. My new one, taken from the scriptures, Sarah Kinson, was perfect. To raise money for our journey home, Mr. Tappan took some of us on tour. We did these exhibitions, as he called them, in churches, meeting halls, and theaters, and similar places. The program would begin with one of our hosts leading us in an opening prayer. Then Mr. Tappan would talk about us. Next came Cinqua, who would tell our story most dramatically, with gestures, shouts, and much moving about. The audience always applauded with great enthusiasm when he was done. Then we sang Manda songs and demonstrated our knowledge. Kellett, for example, was an excellent speller and always impressed our audiences with his abilities in this area. My part was to read aloud the 124th Psalm. If it had not been the Lord who was on our side, let Israel now say, if it had not been the Lord who was on our side, when our enemies attacked us, then they would have swallowed us up alive. When their anger was kindled against us, then the flood would have swept us away. The torrent would have gone over us, then over us would have gone the raging waters. Blessed be the Lord, who has not given us prey to their teeth. Though we have escaped from a bird, from the snare of the fowler, the snare is broken, and we have escaped. Our help is in the name of the Lord, who made heaven and earth. Some people were incredibly kind. When we visited a carpet factory in Lowell, the workers took up a collection for us. Some people were incredibly unkind. In Hartford, an innkeeper refused us rooms. Mr. Tappan pleaded with him to no avail. It was humiliating to stand on the wharf and cold as well. Fortunately, our supporters found families to take care of us for the night. And that is what we are reading today for Africa is My Home. So now they have gone to Farmington, which is a free place in America, and they've all been doing other stuff. Like they said, they are doing exhibitions, they are reading, spelling, telling stories, and Maguru or Marguru got a new name, and her new name was Sarah Kinson, which is a nice name. What I learned from the story today was that people may sometimes just claim stuff that isn't true. And if they claim stuff that isn't true and they're being unkind, leave them alone. Besides, there will always be some unkind people, but there will always be kind people too. So leave the unkind people alone and have fun with the kind people. Thank you for watching us today on Reading with Joan. Bye!